little bit all week long. I talked about with Stephen Harris and Dave a little bit, but I haven't got to talk to you gents about it. Cowboy Ty, how you feeling about tomorrow and who's your pick?
Yeah, I'm taking the Eagles, and it's not because I don't. First of all, Mahomes is annoying to me, but that's not the reason why. When you look at a close game, you sit there and you look in the trenches, and the Eagles have the best offensive line in the game. And when you pair the best offensive line in the game, and you pair them with the best running back in the game, what you have is an amazing running game. And how you win in the NFL is running the football and controlling the clock, limit Mahomes' possessions. And when you deep dive Saquon Barkley, people say that the running back position isn't as important as it used to be. I completely disagree because if you sit there and you watch Saquon Barkley, he actually helps his linemen by setting up blocks with his running ability. By that, I mean he knows where the hole is going to be, but he'll run to the right, draw defenders, and then cut back to the hole, making it better for his easier for his linemen to help block. And it's actually impressive because when he hits the hole, no one's catching him. His average touchdown run on the season is 35 yards. That's insane. I mean, that's his average. Every time he scores, his average is 35 yards.
Wow.
And I mean, that's just a crazy stat to even think about.
Yeah.
But once again, and he has the best offensive line, and the way he does it, and then on the other side of the ball, the Philly defense is legit as it gets. They got a bunch
Yep.
of young guys over there, bunch of guys from Georgia over there that from
Cooper
the national
DeJean.
championship team.
Coop.
Yeah, I mean they got DeJean, the only white cornerback I can even name.
Exciting whites.
They
Hey, they
got
got Reed Blankenship back there too. Don't get it twisted. All right.
yeah, he's a safety. He doesn't
Them
count.
boys
He
holding it
doesn't
down
count.
for us back there.
But if you
Gotta-
sit there and you look, man, I mean, their defense to me, their defense is fast, and it's. I think it's going to give Mahomes problems, and I do think that offensive line is going to give a lot of problems for that Kansas City front. I know Chris Jones is very good, but Saquon Barkley and that offensive line, I think, are just as tough as anybody. I don't think anybody's been able to even come close to stopping them.
Muddy, I'm gonna get into that, but Muddy makes a good point as well. Is that if the Chiefs win, is Andy Reid right on the door for the GOAT title? I think he is. He's not at the door. He's opened it and has made himself a new
He's
lane. I mean,
he's there.
it's
He's already
yeah.
to me. He's there.
I mean, he's at the door. He's already in the conversation. I mean, I know you can kind of argue that Bill has more than him, but we kind of saw. I mean, what Andy's been able to do at both places at Philadelphia, then coming here and building what he's built at Kansas City. You go and do something that's never been done before, and to take down your previous team, it's without a question. I think why we have such a hard time digesting this is because what we saw Tom do and how long it took for the fact that it's already kind of up for grabs and already in a possibility of being overtaken, the throne being overtaken in that short of a time. It's really hard for us to process. It's not easy to digest, but it's happening. It's happening right before our eyes, and instead of just arguing, it's like, no, like, take a step back. What we're seeing here is something unheard of. And look, I've always said, look, Patty is not in the conversation with Tom Brady. He wins tomorrow. He's 100% part of that conversation. And I have to just take a step back and put away my bias. But for me tomorrow, Greg Olson nailed it on the head. And I think we all see this because my wifey was like, who do you think's going to win? And I was like, look, for personally, I think it'd be cool to see a three-peat, but I like Saquon Barkley. But Eagles fans are absolutely bizarre and just like maddening, which would be fun to watch. It's great TV. It's great content. But I can't stand Philly fans or just Philadelphia fans in general. But that team is phenomenal. I mean, it's probably one of the on stat sheet, one of the best teams we've seen. However, and this is where Greg kind of really makes a good point. There's five things that the Chiefs do well at. It's last possession, 2-minute drills, special teams, the big play. Like they win those five weird components every single time. And if you're in this game and they're down by a touchdown or there's a 2-minute game plan, the Chiefs are going to win it. You saw it with the Bills. The Bills should have won that game. They dominated the whole time. They were just kind of moving the ball very, very well. And what happened? There was a big moment, the big moment where Allen needed to get a yard, 4th and 1, and couldn't get it. That was one of the five things, right, that the Chiefs usually do. And so if the Eagles are unable to kind of get off and just take off and run with it, the Chiefs are going to get it done. But I think the Eagles, if they don't get too caught up into it and just go play their game and don't allow the Chiefs to stay in this, I think they handle it easily. But it's the Chiefs, and they've been doing this thing all season long. And here's what's scary is I think we can all agree they haven't looked good at all. Like they haven't looked just dominant or just clicking. This will be the game that it clicks. And that's what this show is, of course, brought to you by BetUS. And right now, when you use the code YouTube150 at betus.com, You get 150% back on your first deposit, then 125 on your next two. And with the football playoffs, college football championships and playoffs happening, and then March Madness right around the corner, there is not a better time right now than to sign up for BetUS.com and use that code to maximize your return. Check it out, BetUS.com. Use the code YouTube150. Now back to the show. Get after it. I would be afraid of.
It just speaks for Andy Reid. I mean, they've won ugly. I mean, let's see what they have. I mean, it
And that's
hasn't
what I
been
would be
pretty by any
concerned of.
stretch of the imagination.
Let it get a
And
little
I'm getting sick
pretty.
of Mahomes. I can tell you that flopping that he does is obnoxious and it needs to be stopped. And it's made for soccer, not the NFL. I'm sick of it. What he was doing against the Texans, and every time he gets touched, he's pointing to his head. I'm over it. Like, you're supposed to be the face of the NFL, buddy. Like, act like it. You watch Joe Burrow get his head ripped off. You know what he does? Gets up and goes to the huddle.
That's what he
That's what I
does.
love. He does, like a man.
Yeah, you gotta give me the best team in the NFL, and that's the refs and the Kansas City Chiefs. Okay, so I asked myself, what would the script say? And I think the three-peat for the poster boys of the NFL, maybe a little wedding proposal, possibly a little engagement at the end. I don't know, a little swift action.
I would love
Risk
that.
to
Just
say you're never
saying.
getting married, buddy. The guy's a bachelor for life.
Yeah, there's no way. There's no way they take away from that. Look, you know what is? I will say, I understand that I get the complaints about the rep. It's been very annoying for like hearing about it. These guys have
It's
been
almost unwatchable.
Yeah, it's been gross. They've been pestering them, and like the questions that these guys are getting away with, about asking Mahomes and Travis about it. I've hated it. I get the frustration. And I know that Tom went through a few things with the Deflategate, and I mean, they had a ton of controversies that they went through, and those were actually legitimate controversies that had some investigation. This is just like and look, there might be, you could probably argue, but there isn't like an actual controversy involved, like legality wise. It's just us saying, being pissed off, like you just, I'm tired of seeing it. And look, I think with great coaching and if there's a rule there and you exploit it, that's Bill Belichick did this too. It just may have not frustrated us as much, but he would do this as well. There's something I want to talk about here too in the comment section. Muddy says Brady retired as the GOAT. 5 years later, we have a new one. Yeah, that's crazy to think too. And this is interesting. I was going to say this, but I felt like I was beating a dead horse because we kind of said this with the college football championship, and I'm like, I'm looking around. I'm like, are we just spoiled? Do we just not care anymore? Like it's like we're just constantly being shoved in our face with content that we're not impressed with things. Because he's saying not much juice behind the Super Bowl is LFGM, and I was feeling the same thing. I was like, I'm watching kind of clips and things like that, but I just feel like in the past there was a different buzz. And I've never been at the Super Bowl, whatever city it's at, but just watching it on TV, there's been just a different buzz in the air. And with this one, I thought there'd be more, but it does feel weird for me. And I'm like, I don't want to be that pessimistic, but it definitely felt more deflated. Do you guys feel the same way, or are we reaching here?
Personally, I just think, I'm sorry, Cody, my bad.
Go ahead. Go ahead.
Personally, no, I don't think it's that. I think it's just the two teams that are in there. I mean, we just saw the Super Bowl 2 years ago. And by that, I mean, it's just like, the average fan who just watches the Super Bowl and the playoffs or whatever, they don't want to see the two same teams again. Like if this game was like Buffalo and Detroit, like everyone would be excited about it. I feel like everyone would be talking about it. Like one of these teams going to win a Super Bowl, blah, 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 blah,
First time
But like
ever.
it's the same two
Yeah.
teams.
Yeah.
And yeah, I think this narrative about the refs. Listen, I love the game of football. It's just that the way the game is called now, it's Mahomes trying to draw flags, and that's the problem with it right now. It's stop trying to draw flags and let the refs do their job. And I know it's a narrative, but they've actually been penalized. I think it's like 20, like they're 20th in the league in penalties. Like they're not. It just feels like that anytime Mahomes points to his head or anytime he wants to flop, he just always gets a flag because they're supposed to protect the quarterback and they're protecting the poster boy or whatever you want to say. I don't think it's like favoritism at all or anything like that. I think it's all we have to do to fix this. It's very simple. Face masks just need to be look up in New York and go, hey, it was a face mask, 15 yards. If they throw a flag for roughing a passer in New York, sees it's obviously not a roughing a passer. Hey, it wasn't roughing a passer. No big deal. Put the ball back. Let's go. Like that's all it needs to be done.
Good, Cody.
Yeah, I kind of got to agree. I think the biggest thing too is like from crew to crew, it's not the same. Like we've seen it in college football too, where You can get away with a tug on the jersey, especially for DBs.
Let him
And then
play.
next thing you know, yeah, and then next thing you know, you barely touch a guy at 6 yards outside the 5 yard contact zone, and you're getting a flag. So it's just like it's the inconsistency. And these guys are professionals. They're supposed to be the best of the best, right? And so they should be more consistent. Listen, it's a quarterback driven league. I get protecting your prizes at quarterback. I don't like it as much, but it is what it is when you're paying these guys 40, 50, 60, 70 million dollars. You want to protect them, right? Every time something happens to a quarterback, it feels like there's a new rule that comes out. The low hit on Tom Brady blows his ACL out, and no longer are you allowed to hit below the knee anymore on quarterbacks inside the tackle box. So it's one of those things where I feel like these rules have just gotten so quarterback friendly. It's getting quite annoying.
I think part of it too, because I think I go back to remember when the Cavs and Golden State were in like 4 or 5 years in a row. It felt like I enjoyed that time of basketball. I know some people probably hated it, but it was fun watching. It became a rivalry, and it was like who's going to own this era, this decade, I guess you could say. I think what the difference is and they were talking about this too. Like I think Jalen Hurts is a good quarterback, but he's not in the conversation with a lot of these guys. He doesn't sit on the same pedestal. And this isn't me. I just think that that's how he's viewed. He's not on the same pedestal as Josh Allen, Lamar Jackson, Patty Mahomes, Joe Burrow. So he doesn't possess the same sexiness at quarterback play. And I think that could be what it is too, because again, a lot of this is on Saquon Barkley, and that doesn't cause for sexy narrative. The Patty Mahomes versus Saquon Barkley, that's not fun, right? And honestly, the Eagles team's just really really good. They don't really have much of a storyline to really build upon, right? Of like, hey, this. I mean, outside of Jalen Hurts being his first Super Bowl, but I don't know if Jalen Hurts just isn't. I mean, I don't want to say isn't marketable, but that's kind of what it feels like. It's just because he's so cool, calm, and collected. Like, I like the guy. I'm actually a huge fan of Jalen Hurts. But is he somebody that gets somebody fired up and excited? No, because he is very just nonchalant and chill. And I guess most of these quarterbacks are, but I don't know. Do you see what I'm getting at? I think that could be part of why the sexiness may not be there. I'm trying to figure it out. I don't know.
Yeah, I think also, I mean, like Jalen Hurts is not an elite quarterback. I mean, it's not that he doesn't play the position. His passing is not as elite as those other guys, and I think that's like a factor because if you sit back and you look at like Jalen Hurts, if he leads his first read is gone, he kind of floats back there, almost stands flat footed, and then looks for to run or scramble out of the pocket and try to find somebody on the run. And like when you watch Joe Burrow, he's standing in a pocket, he's moving his eyes left, right. He's ready to throw the ball at all times. And Jalen Hurts to me just doesn't have that, like you said, sexiness because his passing isn't that great. He's more of he's almost like a run first at this point. I almost feel like his over under passing attempts is like 21 or 22 or something like that. I mean, in the NFL, that's insanely low. I mean, if you sit there and you think about it, I think Mahomes is like 35, 36. So I just think the Eagles play a different style of football because of the players they have, and that's why the sexiness for Jalen Hurts isn't there.
I think the other part of it too is that look. I mean, because some people are saying, hey, we're tired of seeing the Chiefs in it. Well, Tom and the Patriots dominated for almost over a decade. But what the difference was is that there was always a team on the other side that we could get behind, right? So you either were all in for Tom, or you were like, I can get 100% behind this team. There's nobody who wants to be behind Philadelphia. So everyone who usually you would tune in and be excited to see the possible downfall of Patty and the Chiefs, but the exchange is the Eagles win. So everyone's like, it's a lose-lose. And I think that's what it probably boils down to.
Well, and you got to think too, probably the most lackluster Super Bowl that we had during that Patriots run, lackluster in game was the Atlanta game, and then they go out and make it an absolute show with the big comeback. You know what I mean? It just didn't that Super Bowl didn't
greatest Super Bowl of all time.
Yeah, no, just the two teams. You were like, Atlanta, whatever, it's okay.
Yeah, but it possessed that though. Atlanta, it would have been their first Super Bowl. It was nobody hates Atlanta. Like they don't carry like the same type of persona that the Eagles do. So it's like, yeah, everybody loved Matt Ryan. Like there was a hero that you could fight for going into that Super Bowl, and it was at Atlanta, right?
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was.
No, I don't think they played in Atlanta because that would have been
No, because Tampa was the first time that a team made it to the Super Bowl
made it. Yeah, I
and
don't know
won
what
it.
dome it was in, but it
And then
was
the
in the
following
dome.
year
It
was the
definitely was in
Rams
the
at
dome.
SoFi, right? I think.
Yes, the Rams did make it.